Just want to say thank you for coming to Link to Success. Basically, this is where we believe that if you're stuck in business as usual, you're going to lose, and where we believe that friction is the enemy, and where also we believe that if you align your people, processes, and technology is the best way to grow your business. And today I'm joined with Dan Crawford. And Dan, I just appreciate your joining us today. Give us 2 seconds. Tell us a little bit about your background and what company you represent, and how you help folks.
Very good. Thank you for having me on, Kevin. I really appreciate it. I'm with Sovereign Systems, and I've been building custom software and managing databases for companies since 1991. And we build
starting to become a dinosaur.
Pretty much, yeah. Getting old. Still teaching the young guys some things and learning some things from them as well. So we really enjoy what we're doing here.
Well, and Dan, I appreciate you coming on, because the last time you and I have known each other for a long time, and I was very remiss to hear that you were out playing in the woods and had a little bit of an accident. I don't know if you want to share that or not, but you're being a trooper for even being here. So
yeah, I was trying to be an amateur lumberjack, cleaning up from a storm, and had a tree that wasn't a huge tree, but it was a big enough tree to cause some issues, and the tree fell on me when we were cutting it down.
Oh, no.
So I'm grateful to be here, and just got released from the ortho doctor this morning, so everything's looking good.
Well, that's a blessing. I appreciate you taking time out of your day. I'm sure you haven't exactly been real comfortable lately.
It's been fun. It's been fun.
I bet. So tell me, in general, like, who do you help? If you had to say this is kind of our ideal individual that we help, who would that be?
So the companies that we help, typically there's a CIO or an IT director involved, or somebody who is that may be wearing multiple hats, and that kind of a role is one of the hats that they have. There's a decent number of staff. They have a substantial number of processes. Oftentimes they're using Excel to manage some of the processes, or they may be using some sort of out-of-the-box software, but because they have some kind of niche or special, something special or different about the business, or sometimes it's the business department, there's a lot of manual stuff that they have to do in addition to using their software, because if they do have software, it doesn't necessarily meet all of the special stuff that they do.
So they could be jumping from a line of business application to an Excel spreadsheet to a piece of paper and kind of back and forth. Is that what you're
Absolutely. Yep. And sometimes I've seen where they're jumping between a line of business application, and they may have 2 or 3 or 4 other applications. Sometimes somebody is manually entering the same data or very similar data into multiple systems, and just very, very inefficient. A lot of time being wasted there.
I gotcha. So is that something that they recognize? That I'm sure, we were talking a little bit earlier that, this is probably impacting those companies from a time and money and people point of view. Do they realize that, or is that something you have to educate them on?
It depends. Some do. And sometimes it's just a frustration, and they think this is the way it is. They don't like it. Maybe they think there should be a better way. Sometimes it takes somebody new coming into the company to say, hey, why don't we automate this for the light bulb to go off? Or sometimes it's talking with, somebody else who is in business. Maybe they're out networking with somebody, and the light bulb goes off that way. Other times, the organization they're kind of fine tuning the process, and they'll do it sort of manually to figure out here's exactly how this process flows. And then once they get that figured out, then they'll automate it at that point.
I got you. You kind of shared a couple of examples of, you said, there might be some seasonality to your clients that you work with, but you shared one great example of some guy working during the holidays. Share with the folks how you've been able to help them.
Yeah, so we have a client, and he's got a very special retail business, and a substantial amount of his revenue comes from Thanksgiving and Christmas. And his processes around those holidays are completely different. I mean, his Thanksgiving week and Christmas week he tracks everything used to track everything on spreadsheets. And he would be there every night those 2 weeks until midnight or 1 a.m, going through and counting inventory and preparing to fulfill orders the next day. He did have a technology background. So his plan from the get-go was, I'm going to figure out what this process is, and then I'm going to have somebody automate it. Now, was he just stuck in that process? Because it sounds like the family wasn't very excited with him during the holidays. Yeah, they were. That was not a fun time, and I think the family was very glad when the holidays were over, because that really, that monopolized his time. Right. Even leading up to the holidays. But it was, I think it was a little bit overdue to automate. He'd actually tried to do it before, and the company he'd worked with before was not successful in doing it. But we talked, and he liked our approach, and so we were able to successfully do it. And it was so funny, the first Thanksgiving, that Thanksgiving week that he was using the software, he texted me, and I think it was like 9:00 in the evening. And he said, this is the first time during Thanksgiving week that I've ever been able to leave on time. And at this point, I think he'd been open 10 or 11 years. So it was a big relief for him, and really helped his business and help his efficiency.
That's cool. That is very, very good. And so when if you had to share with everybody, kind of a recipe for success, what would that look like? If they're sitting there saying, gosh, this is me, I'm that guy who's stuck, late at night tabulating all this information on an Excel spreadsheet, or I'm jumping from one application to another. How do they get into kind of that relief of being able to go home and see the family?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first thing to do is, I recommend taking biting off a small piece. Don't try to automate everything at once. And there are a few reasons for that, but pick some low-hanging fruit, something that's easy to automate, and that could be file transfers are easy to automate. Oftentimes, data extracts are easy to automate. So, I know a number of businesses, they have to extract, orders or customer information or something like that, and maybe send it to a different system, or importing data. Oftentimes, those things are pretty easy to automate. The next thing to do is document the process. Okay. And so, I tell people, pretend you won a cruise for a month and you're going to be gone and somebody else has to do this. Mm-hmm. Document the steps for what needs to be done. And then to test your documentation, have somebody else actually do it. Because what will happen when we write, when we document processes, we make a lot of assumptions. And sometimes it's not even a conscious thing. It's just we do something a certain way for so long, we don't even think about it. Where somebody else who is going through the documentation and having to do it will ask the questions that will bring out some of those assumptions that we make. Once you have the documentation, then you can take that process and automate it. And there are a number of tools that you can use to automate. Sometimes you don't have to go through and have somebody write a program. There are tools like Visual Cron that where you can build some automation. So you can set up your automation in a tool. I always recommend
test environment.
Yeah, a test environment, and go through and understand that the first time that you set up an automation, it's going to take a while because there is a learning curve. If you moving from doing something manually where you may not even be conscious of the decisions that you're making when you're running the process, to having a computer system do it, you have to tell it step by step exactly what to do and what decisions to make. I really recommend that you have an automation process that has some sort of alerting. So if there is an error, say you're sending a file to another company and you're sending it to a secure FTP server. Well, if you're not able to log into that secure FTP server and send a file, you'd want to get some sort of an email. So I recommend using an automation system that sends alerts if there's a failure. That allows whoever is overseeing this automation to manage by exception. Now, sometimes a process is so critical that you want to get a message regardless of whether it failed or succeeded. You just want to know that it ran.
Yeah. You want to know that it's actually working for you.
Absolutely. And the good automation tools, they support that. They'll send messages either way, and you can pick, do I just want to know about failures? Do I want to know whatever happens with it? So then once you have once you've tested it, once you've validated that the messaging works, if it fails, then you start educating people. So just like you documented the steps for the manual process, you also want to document, you just have something to start with if you have to troubleshoot this automated process. So,
right.
Where does it run? What's the schedule? Kind of a summary of what it's doing. So if you are gone and somebody else has to troubleshoot something, they've got a place to start. And using that to train whoever needs to be trained on it, so you've got some backup is important. And then monitoring the process. You get emails if it fails, or get some sort of a notification if it fails, but you still want to go in periodically and check on it. And then oftentimes, depending on what it is that is being automated, there will be updates that need to be made periodically.
Sure.
So, if you're, doing something with files that customers are sending you, I've been in situations where there's a big new customer, and so you have to add some additional logic to an automation because this customer is so big, you're gonna give them some concierge treatment.
Well, so it sounds like, if I just had to summarize real quick, it says, so step one is really identify what the issue is. And then two is document the process steps. And just to go back real quick, identifying is you want to bite off small chunks to start with. Then document that process. Once you've documented the process and have run a couple different set of eyes past it, you want to take that, put it into a tool to automate it. And once you feel comfortable with that, then kind of roll it out and train the folks on how to use it.
Absolutely. And then you look at, okay, what lessons did I learn? And I think, sometimes it helps to let that automation run for a few days, few weeks, depending on how frequently it runs, and just see what you learn. Because you may find that when you build that automation, you may see, oh, this is how this automation tool works. It'll work better if I change, this setting or something like that. But you'll get lessons learned, and then you can apply those lessons, and that will accelerate your next automation. And so I recommend going through this cycle, picking the next thing that you want to automate and go through that same cycle, and it'll be a more efficient process because of the lessons learned on that first automation that you did.
So when the folks follow this kind of 4 or 5 step process, what does success look like? Once they go from identifying, hey, I'm stuck in business as usual, they follow these 3 or 4 steps. What does that kind of success look like?
So that success really looks like they, whoever was doing that manual process can focus on things that bring more value to the business instead of just doing this sometimes it's kind of grunt work. So sometimes the things that we're automating there's some complexity, some thought that goes into it, but oftentimes even those processes can be automated, but it lets the person focus on things that can bring potentially bring revenue or bring more value to the business, and not just these repetitive tasks.
Perfect.
And I've seen statistics where I saw a survey where 60% of the people who responded estimated that about 25% of their time was spent doing repetitive tasks. IDC did a survey a few years ago where I think the companies, the result of it was that companies on average lose 20 to 30% of their revenue through inefficiencies, and a lot of those inefficiencies can be automated.
Well, that's kind of a perfect segue here then, Dan. I guess, where can if people realize that they're stuck in business as usual and they want to recapture that revenue that they're losing because of manual steps, and they want to take it in from a manual environment to an automated environment, how do they get in touch with you?
So the best way to get in touch with me is either phone or email, and my email is dcrawford@sovereignsystems.biz, and to spell that sovereignsystems.biz out, because that trips up a lot of people. It is SOVEREIGNSYSTEMS.biz.
Yeah, that's a mouthful.
Yeah, and that was I picked that, and I kind of kick myself for it sometimes. So maybe we'll get it shortened up sometime here in the near future.
Well, hopefully, hopefully the folks that are hearing this will fight through the length of the email and send you a request. And I think that I've worked with you numerous times in the past, and so I highly recommend folks reach out to Dan if they have processes that they want to automate. And it was just a great segue for our conversation here at Link to Success. This is really where we believe that if you're stuck in business as usual, you're going to lose. We believe
Absolutely.
that process friction is really the enemy, and we want to align your people, processes, and technologies because we believe it's the best way to grow your business. So, Dan, I appreciate you coming on today, and hopefully
Thank you, Kevin.
some folks will reach out to you. Yep. God bless. We'll talk to you guys soon.